Welcome to the 11 Warriors show for Thursday, March 7th, 2024. I'm Jason Priestis. He's Chris Lauterbach and Andre McCall. You might notice a new face. Andre is, it goes back with us. When we started the radio show over 5 years ago, he was like one of the first dudes, probably the first guy that called when we opened up phone lines, and we really didn't know what we were doing. Andre's been a longtime caller of the radio show. Glad to have him here on the 11 Warriors show, and he's got some Ohio State opinions, usually good opinions. Man, he lets us know when we're off base. We do, even in the years we didn't have calls, he'd be blowing us up and letting us know that, hey, man, you guys are wrong about this. Man, the defense is better than you think, or this or that. So it's good to get him here in the flesh. Andre, how you doing, man?
Fantastic, fellas. I can't complain one bit. I appreciate you having me on the show, man. This is 11 Warriors. I love you guys, man. Even before you had the show, I used to follow you guys religiously on Twitter, or what they call X nowadays. But you guys always bring the good content, man. And I appreciate you guys' opinions, because unfortunately, a lot of times when you start reading stuff, it's just bland, generic stuff. But you guys have strong opinions. That's what I like. That's why I follow you guys.
I appreciate that. Let's get started, man. Spring practice started Tuesday. It's already here. Feels like the season just ended. They had one Tuesday. They'll have another this morning. You might actually be listening to this or watching this while they're practicing or shortly after they practice. But practice 2 is Thursday. And Tuesday, we got to see something. I guess Saturday there was an 1870 event at the Woody. But Chip Kelly in Ohio State gear. How weird is that, Chris?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, just the way all this came together. You got Bill O'Brien, and then that goes away, and then here comes Chip Kelly. And I didn't see. I was at the 1870 event on Saturday. I didn't see him during the window that I was there. But very insightful opening press conference from him, and definitely sounds like he's happy to be in the great state of Ohio.
Yeah, hasn't said he hasn't coached a position group since 2008, but his wife supposedly has never seen him as happy as he is right now. He's got a lot of jokes, man. Asked what it was like working with Ryan Day. He made him call Ryan sir. Told a John Lennon story. Did you catch that one?
Yeah.
Where he just wanted to be happy, and it was like a grade school. John Lennon was asked by his teacher what he wanted to be when he grows up, and he said he wanted to be happy, and the teacher was like, I don't think he understands the assignment, and the mom's like, I don't think you understand life, which is like
How about John Lennon's mom? Yeah, that was like checkmate. That was dope.
Chip's going to coach quarterbacks. Ryan said he's going to, be in the meetings and handle all that stuff. And, Day's excited, obviously, like we are, to see what he'll do with the running game and the offensive line. And, to his credit, Kelly's excited to come work with Ohio State players. It's like, imagine upgrading your car, Andre. You're going from like a Toyota to a Ferrari, and you got some better dudes to try your tricks, right?
It's just one of those kind of things, man. You're just blessed to be in a position where you can still contribute and be happy. A lot of these coaches are miserable, man. You can just see it on their faces. Just coaching is just so stressful, man. So the fact that Chip was smiling and very introspective on things that he missed about coaching the position groups gets my juices flowing, because Ohio State needs a joke.
Yeah,
for sure.
They do. And I mean, this is a team that, let's be real, 2 to 4 plays away from probably being 2-time national champs the last 2 years. I mean, Georgia, there's a play or two there, whether it's Marv or the field goal, and they're going to truck TCU after. That's one. And then I think most Michigan fans will begrudgingly admit that Ohio State was the best team they played last year. Certainly that third quarter running drive to tie the game, most impressive, in my opinion, the most impressive drive that Michigan's defense was elite, had given up that season. And they moved the ball on them, and a couple of mistakes here and there. But this is a team that was like 2 to 4 plays, again, away from 2 national titles. Went out, everyone got mad. They went out and had the biggest offseason in program history. Bringing a guy like Chip Kelly to coach the quarterbacks. I mean, all the love in the world to Corey Dennis, but he's no Chip Kelly. Let's be real. Chip's got so much experience, such an innovative mind. Ryan trusts him really well to do what he's doing. And Chris, you got to be excited for what this season's bringing, and it's creeping up on us quickly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, no doubt about it. Obviously, the interest is at a fever pitch right now because of the offseason that you mentioned. And I think this whole Chip Kelly thing, it's easy as a Buckeye fan to say, I'm actually happier that it's Chip Kelly, because that's the reality, but because that's your reality of what happened. But I think I was excited about the O'Brien hire. I think that was a great one because, for a bunch of different reasons. I thought, hey, he'll be maybe that voice that's not afraid to disagree with Day and, be very aggressive in players' face, maybe a little bit different style than some of those guys are used to. And I think a little bit of a disruptor would probably be a good thing. But, Kelly coming in, I don't know that he's going to be a Day yes man just because, of the bond that they have, because I think that would be doing each of them a disservice. But I think that, you mentioned a lot of Michigan fans saying, yeah, they feel like Ohio State was probably the toughest challenge that they had last year. And that was with the 88th best rushing attack in the country on a good day, right? So to me, when you bring Kelly in, it's not even so much innovation and those kinds of things, because a lot of that is things Day already did, but it's given this running game hopefully a refresh. Now you still need an offensive line to come together no matter what kind of, tricks you do with play design and those kinds of things. But I'm probably mostly excited about what he can do in the run game. But I will say just quickly, the other thing that jumped out to me is that we knew on paper he's the quarterback's coach, right? But I think, Jason, you and I had opined even that, well, Day's still going to be in that room, and I think he is, no doubt. But what struck me that I guess I hadn't thought about as much as I should have is that, this synergy you need between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback is a real thing. Just in past years, it's been Day, no matter who was actually, dubbed the offensive coordinator. So because of that, I do feel like Kelly's going to be working with these quarterbacks even more directly than I was probably giving credence to, just because we know Day's a quarterback guru and he's still going to be recruiting these guys to come here, that kind of thing. But I think it's going to be that much more important that Kelly is really good with the quarterbacks, because I think he's going to spend more time with them than at least I was initially kind of conceptualizing in my mind.
Yeah, same here. I love that Brian Day, too, is like, what's the right word? Like, not too proud to admit that he needed to relinquish control. A lot of guys couldn't bring themselves. I mean, you get to be a head coach at like school. Like, your ego has got to be massive. It's best they do to check it. But just every coach has got to be that way. And
he's been humbled a little bit, too.
He has. And like humbled going 11-1, basically. That's a right. Weird thing. Yeah. But I mean, that's what happens when you don't beat Michigan around here. And one here and there's not fatal, but 3 in a row, people tend to notice, right?
Well, I know a lot of the focus is going to be on Chip Kelly this year, but the thing that really, really intrigued me about the offseason hiring was the defensive pass rush specialist, because I know this is a minority opinion, but I feel that the reason they lost the Georgia game and the Michigan game last year in 2023 was because of the defense. When they needed to get McCarthy on the ground, they couldn't do it. He scrambled for a couple runs, for a couple first downs. He got out of a couple pressures. We got to finish those plays, because the Georgia game is just unacceptable that Ohio State can blow a lead like that. And, we were up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and lose that game. That's unacceptable. And then last year, I mean, the Michigan game was there to be had if we just make a play or two in the fourth quarter. And I know the defense got the ball back to the Ohio State offense eventually at the end, but there was a couple plays to be made. I don't even want to talk about that controversial play in the end zone where it should have been an interception, but there was a couple plays that the defensive line could have made that they didn't make. So I just want to get there this year. I just want to get to the quarterback, make those plays, and not be on the edge of my seat every game like we were in the fourth quarter against every good team that we played the last 2 years.
Yeah, well, good news. They have a lot of guys that can do that coming back. Some guys we might have thought were leaving for the NFL, so that'll be helpful. Andre, to Chris's earlier point about wanting to see the OL develop, I think that, yeah, we need that. But Chip will be able to put guys in positions to develop and look good faster is kind of where I'm at on that. You need the development, but certain coaches can do things to kind of speed that up, right?
Well, the whole thing about it is, I mean, it's all about personnel. It's all about the Billies and the Joes, not necessarily the X's and the O's. So I'm interested to see what, Justin Fry and obviously Chip Kelly have worked together before, so the chemistry should be there early. But I like the fact that Hinsman's been in the weight room. He's getting stronger. We have actual depth on the offensive line this year more than we've had in the past. Depth and better coaching. The offensive line should be that much better with the cohesiveness that they played together last year as compared to things kind of being thrown together last year. So 1 year of experience together, another year of Justin Fry and Chip Kelly working together. I think the offensive line should be better based on that. But you know how the saying goes, we see better than we hear, right?
Right, absolutely. Chris, the internet got what it wanted, too. Sonny Styles taking reps at Will linebacker. Took reps at second-team linebacker over the Will spot behind C.J. Hicks. And caveat for spring training. Don't always buy into what you see at who's at 1 and who's at 2. Spring's more about development than cohesion or scheme or anything like that. But Day did say that, Sonny's going to play mostly linebacker this season, and that's what the internet wanted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that Ohio State, typically is only playing 2 linebackers for the most part. There'd be certain matchups, like the Georgia game, for instance, right, where you're trotting 3 out there a little bit more often. But yeah, if there's primarily going to be 2, and Simon's going to be 1 in the middle, of course, then it really leaves that 1 position. So it's really interesting because you don't move a guy expecting him to not be on the field. So it's really about whether or not this becomes a rotation between those 2 guys, like you see at corner, right? Like Jermaine Matthews is going to play a bunch this year. I don't care if he's a starter or not. They're not going to take Burke off the field a lot, but Jermaine Matthews is going to play, right? So I think at that outside linebacker spot, I'm really interested to see is somebody going to seize the day here where they see 80% of the snaps? Or are we going to be 50-50 because we're trying to figure this out? Will it be gradual because Sonny's got to kind of grow into that role kind of thing? Or will the light, go off for Hicks? Because obviously, the star rating and all that kind of stuff is there with him. But I don't know that the light is completely, turned on. We've talked about it before. But I hope they feel really good about Sonny, because what I don't want to see, and I don't think this will happen, but I don't want it to be a situation like Sawyer, right? Where it's, oh, you're the jack. Oh, no, you're the defensive it. Like, you really didn't see Sawyer finally start to come on until the back half of last year as another 5-star guy, right? So I'm hoping that Styles' versatility in the long haul doesn't actually end up almost, I don't say hurting him, but in a way where it's like find a home and then get a chance to really, blossom in that spot. So, but I do think this is the right move, especially with Downs coming in, Ransom is back. Like, you've got all this stuff in the secondary. I don't argue that decision whatsoever. But we talked about it last week, Jason. To me, I'm not in the same boat with you guys on offensive line. Like, I'm still a little bit worried about that, but I think weak side linebacker is going to play itself out eventually. I'm just like, okay, who is it going to be? Is it by committee, or is one of these dudes, going to seize it?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Laurinaitis did say last week he wants 3 guys or 4 guys to earn the right to play, and last season it was 2 guys that earned the right to play. Andre, I saw you pointing at Chris. Are you on board with Sonny and hoping for great things at linebacker, or what are your thoughts there?
Well, he was talking about Jack Sawyer, just being the jack. And when you got a 5-star guy like that, that's versatile like that guy should never just be pigeonholed. He should be able to be versatile enough to be switching positions, switching sides. There were some packages when Ohio State had the older Bolster brother, when he would play inside on rush downs, just to give him a little bit more pass rush. He would move from the outside to the inside. But the thing I wanted to piggyback on was the C.J. Hicks thing. I hope that Ohio State doesn't do the same thing that they did with Barron Browning. Barron Browning played middle linebackers basically his whole career. They wasted that guy. That guy was a natural pass rusher, and the few opportunities that he had against TCU and some other big games where the obvious talent was there for him to rush the passer, and they kept him in the middle. So I felt the same way with Sonny Styles, that they were just wasting his actual ability by playing him in the secondary, because in that Notre Dame game he flashed several times by making plays close to the line of scrimmage. So hopefully they got that figured out sooner rather than later, but I like the versatility of the linebackers that they have. So it's a situation where several guys are going to play, several guys are going to get nicked up. I mean, we all know Ohio State is going to win several of these early games by 4 or 5 touchdowns, so we should get a good early look at some of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of ability, man, first look at Jeremiah Smith in Ohio State pads. Looks like a monster. There's this trap where every year you've got this stud freshman, and you can convince yourself that he's going to probably make a bigger impact than is reasonable, because it's rare. I mean, like, you look at even Olave, Garrett Wilson, guys like that, their freshman year, a few hundred yards, not monster seasons. Like, it's hard to make a big impression or to have a big impact on the field as a freshman. Saying that, he's special. Do you guys think that maybe he gets to 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 yards? Is that a possibility for Jeremiah Smith as a freshman?
I don't know about 7,000, 8,000, not 1,000 yards. No, I don't know about
No,
that.
700, 800,
yeah,
900.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
or 1,000. No,
yeah, or 1,000. 7,000 would be really good if you could
that'd
do
be
that.
sweet. That'd be a
would
whole
take
year. You might break some records. No. In all sincerity, I think one of the big differences is that, because I hear you, right? Like we've written articles before about, true freshmen that have actually done something at Ohio State, like, big time. Like I think Garrett Wilson going for like 400 yards, like that was a lot, right? Like it doesn't happen very often. I think the difference though this year is that typically while this wide receiver room has lots of talent in it, there's not a lot of returning guys. So I think not only is Jeremiah Smith a freak, I think it is necessary for him to play. It's not a luxury that he's on the roster, in my opinion, right? Like you've got Tate, you've got Emeka, those guys are going to start. We'll see if Emeka's, inside, outside, what he does. But you got Ennis, you got some other guys, but Ennis doesn't play the same position Jeremiah Smith does, right? Like he's going to be on the outside for sure. Ennis is a slot guy. Emeka can do both. Carnell can do both, but probably should be outside. So to me, I feel like Smith is absolutely going to deliver because he's going to need to. So it's not like he's going to be, great talent, but he's, parked behind a Chris Olave. That's not really the reality here. So I would honestly be stunned if Smith doesn't end up with, at least 500 yards because he's going to have to play.
Andre, you with him?
Yeah, the thing about Jeremiah Smith, I mean, you see pictures of this guy, you're like, is this for real right now? Is this guy 18 years old?
Yeah.
It's just one of those kind of situations where I just hope that they use him in a natural flow of the offense. When you go back to Braxton Miller, when they moved him from quarterback to wide receiver, Urban just forced the ball to him. Ohio State just has too much talent at other spots for them to do that. So I just hope it's a natural progression. Let him work his way into it. Because, as physically talented and gifted as he is, he's still going to be a young guy working his way into the rotation. So Emeka Egbuka is the perfect mentor to have. He's a quiet guy. When the guys respect him, and he's the kind of guy that I want leading a young stud like that coming to college football in his freshman season.
That's a great point about Emeka, a great mentor. I hadn't even thought of that, but you're absolutely right. Some other camp news: the Lions kind of coming into form a little bit. The big news, of course, from the first day of practice was Luke Montgomery at right guard, and it's a guy they've been raving about forever. You're looking at your first team offensive line going left to right. You got Simmons at left tackle, Donovan Jackson at left guard, Hinsman at center, and Montgomery at right guard. And then you got, of course, Josh Fryer at right tackle. Thoughts on that? Any surprises? Because, this is a guy maybe some people thought he'd be a guy that can push a guy at tackle and to have him move into guard. Something they've done in the past, not unusual.
I'll go ahead and chime in on that. Luke Montgomery, he's kind of a tweener size-wise, guard, tackle. He can kind of play both and get away with it in college football. It's a situation where the coaching staff obviously is looking at him, thinking how we can get our best assets on the field. Josh Fryer left a lot of plays on the field last year, so fingers crossed there, Chris, that he can do a better job this year. I have my doubts about that as well, but just the fact that Luke's got that versatility that he can, be that swing guy to go from tackle to guard is going to help them out in the long run. I'm just kind of anxious to see that center battle, how it's going to play out, because even if one guy doesn't play, both of those guys are going to play as long as they're willing to play multiple positions, guard and center. But the Luke Montgomery thing is kind of interesting because it's like, do you play the guy where he's comfortable at best at now, or do you play the guy where you think he's got the potential to be at the next level? So those things kind of always intrigue me with college coaches. Some of them look at it like, I'm going to play it the best way that he can help the team right now. And some coaches say, you're going to be a guard in the NFL, we're going to put you at guard.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. I feel like a broken record at this. We're talking about the right side of the line, and it is totally unsettled, in my opinion. I think McLaughlin's going to be the center. I think that's probably what will happen. And great hands, like whatever. That's a good problem to have. They'll figure that out. But with Montgomery sliding inside, and I hear you, Andre, on being a tweener, but I think, right tackle is what they were hoping, maybe he could grow into, put on some, all of that. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I just don't see Josh Fryer as a starting right tackle on a national championship Ohio State football team. Depth has done some good things, don't get me wrong, but consistency was a huge problem. Huge problem. So I expected maybe that he would be at right guard, and then, hey, let's see what Montgomery can do over the course of the spring at right tackle. Knowing we're probably going to bring someone in anyway, but how good will that person need to be? Do we need to go find another, Josh Simmons or better, or can we just get a depth piece kind of thing? And it's going to be very interesting. Anybody that thinks they definitively know, I think they're guessing at this point. I just still have to believe that, if Fryer is the right tackle and he continues to line up at spring, we'll see where he's at, today, kind of thing, that they need a portal piece, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Don't forget that this offensive line is still not a finished product. I think they're going to at least try to get one more guy, preferably a tackle that can play right or left. The guys behind the guys that we just previously mentioned, I don't have a lot of faith there. So we definitely need depth in the tackle spot more than the inside guys. I think we're fine there, but we still got one more piece to add, and I'm sure that the coaches are on the phone right now while we're doing this podcast trying to figure out who that could be.
Well, these 15 practices are important. I think it's smart to move these guys around. It's easy to read a bunch into the first day because we're all just excited, like, oh my God, spring practice started on Tuesday, and we've got to, digest everything we see and try our best not to take it as the gospel, but talk about it for an hour. I would expect that those guys will continue to move around. I just struggle to think at the end of spring, it's like, yep, Fryer at right tackle, we feel great about that. Montgomery would be a first-year starter, at right. Like, I just don't think that they can't be done there. It can't just be scheme. And I hear you, Jason. Like, you can cover up some warts and those kinds of things with a better scheme. I have no doubt about that. Right? It doesn't matter who your line is if everybody knows you're going to run right side of the boundary. But I still think there's better. They can upgrade.
Yeah, I'm a little more bullish than you two are, but I'm wrong a lot. So we'll see what plays out. Speaking of depth, man, the quarterback order, man, the room over there. They got Devin Brown, and again, it's spring. Devin Brown with the ones, Will Howard next, Lincoln Keenholz, Julian Sand, and Aaron Noland. Packed house. And, there were some thoughts, especially when Sand kind of came in at the last minute, that, man, what's going to happen here? Devin, was given a shot in the Cotton Bowl, but can't seem to stay healthy. And a lot of speculation he may be a guy that would transfer out. And he was asked about that speculation. He had to say, quote, honestly, I think people are cowards. I think people have this thought in their own heads that I'm going to leave and I'm a quitter, but that's never been me. These people live wherever in their mom's basement saying stuff about me, and they don't know shit. Excuse my language, but they don't know anything. They don't know who I am. They don't know who I've been, and that's who I've been. First of all, Chris, is that a shot at us for the mom's basement thing? Was that me or you?
It could still be. I don't know. We're still trying to outgrow that from a certain writer, not to be named, at the Dispatch that took a shot at us back in the day. But I think we outlived him. But I love Devin Brown. His attitude, demeanor has never been questioned, right? Like, I love what he brings to the table from that regard. He's absolutely had some bad luck, but I think anybody that has said, they think this, that, or the other about Dev, I've never heard anybody say that, transferring makes you a quitter or anything like that, right? It's there just could be better situations, for someone. And, we're going to speculate about that. I personally believe no matter what, I hope he stays, because I think it gives you depth. It gives you another, I'm not trying to, run him off by any stretch, but I don't think he's going to be the starter game one. I just don't. I don't think that would make me an idiot any more than anybody else thinks that, considering what Will Howard has proven in playing actual games versus what, Brown has been able to show in limited duty, whether it's practice or games. So you've got all these pieces at Ohio State right now. You feel like this team's primed for a championship. He's going to have to do some serious work in the spring to leapfrog somebody that has played as many games as Will Howard is. I don't think that's crazy talk from someone. I think that's logical. I appreciate his passion, but it feels like a bit of an uphill climb.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of that battle and the battles taking place, Andre, Aaron Noland, man, he's ready to compete. He's another guy that was like, when Sand came in, like, man, is this guy going to bolt in the spring or something? And he had a quote the other day. He said, quote, on Sand, he said, quote, we'll have to compete. We will be teammates who will push each other every day. We will battle and we will have competitive excellence toward each other. That's what being the best of buddies and true teammates mean. And man, what a mature response to kind of that question of where he sees himself in the fitting work.
I love this kid's moxie, man. You know, one thing about Ryan Day and the guys that he brings in, they all have, and Urban Meyer before him, they all have the same trait. They will compete. I mean, most of the guys that have transferred out of the program the last 2 or 3 years just knew they weren't going to play. They just knew they weren't good enough. So, you know, they went to other places for whatever their personal reasons were. But Aaron Noland knows he's Ohio State quality quarterback. Otherwise, you know, he wouldn't be here. He knows that he has the talent to get on the field at Ohio State. And he's going to damn sure make sure that he gives every effort that he can to make sure that he gets on the field. I love that. And then, I mean, these guys are ultra competitive. There's no way, I know Sayan was higher rated than Noland, but there's no way that Noland thinks that Sayan's better than him. Of course, he wouldn't say that publicly, but in his mind, he's the better player. He'll show you when he gets on the field.
Two elite guys. You're absolutely right. New numbers for freshmen and transfers. Let's start with the freshman. Jeremiah Smith, of course, wearing number 4. Aaron Scott is going to rock 5. Julian Sayin, number 10. Aaron Noland, 12. Bryce West, 12. Edric Houston, 96. Taking Jeremiah Smith out of there, who's got the best number of the new freshmen?
I definitely wouldn't put Edric Houston in there. 96, man. I'm thinking of a big old tackle in there, man.
I think he could have done better. Maybe he'll change as he gets some seniority. He'll upgrade in a year or two. But I don't know. Sayin's number 10. I like number 10, man. It's been a while since a number 10 slung it for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I feel like 10's like the prototype white guy looking quarterback. I don't know. I can just see it, right? Like, you know, like maybe Schleister's, although I don't know if he was prototype. But yeah, at 10, that stuck out to me.
Hey, man, in recent memory, that's old Joey B, man. So anytime you're wearing Joey B's number, hey, you know, you got a lot to live up to, brother.
Numbers for the transfers. Quinshon Judkins, number 1. Caleb Downs, number 2. Will Howard, number 18. And center Seth McLaughlin, 56. Again, it's hard to make 56 look cool. I mean, centers try their best, but and God bless them for that. But pop him out, man. Who do you guys like? Who's got the best number for a transfer?
Come on, man. It's got to be Caleb Downs, man. Anytime you got that, too, you get a deuce, throw up the deuces, man. You know, it's all good there. You know, Caleb Downs is an interesting kid. I got some friends that are down there in Alabama that actually know him pretty well. And they said that him and the two guys they got coming in, the guy from Alabama, they said those kids are humble. I feel that those are the best people to come in and just be humble. We know they're studs. We know that Caleb Downs is stud. Obviously, we recruited the heck out of them and didn't get in the first time. But the fact that they come in humble and ready to work, that's a perfect mentorship for these young guys to come in and say, hey, man, put your head down. We grind here. There's nothing fancy. There's no Lamborghini, man. We're going to drive this like a Ford F-350, and we're going to work. So, you know, obviously I'm a little biased towards Caleb Downs. The fact that, you know, his tape is at Alabama was just incredible, man. It's just the plays that he made. I can't believe he only had 2 interceptions because every Alabama game I watched, he flashed. So I'm going to go with Caleb.
Chris, are you with him? That's hard to argue with too, right? Such a good number to Ohio State.
Dude's All-American out of the box, right? Led Alabama, I think, at snaps last year as a true freshman. Just the scouting combine last week, the 3 guys from Bama's secondary that were there. I mean, they were asked about Downs, and they were just talking about his maturity. And you hear the same things about Jeremiah and some of these other guys. Like, I just feel like these pieces, they just fit together so good. But yeah, Downs rocking too. I mean, the legacy of that number obviously is insane. And I just feel like this guy's he's going to be something special.
I agree. He's a great dude. His dad, Gary's a great guy as well. Very humble, down-to-earth family. Some guys out for spring. Malik Hartford, Peyton Pierce, Miles Walker, Bryce West, and Court Williams. Court is, of course, recovering from another devastating ACL injury he suffered last August. Other news on the site this week, Dan Hope put up the first Buckeye 20 rankings for 2024. And this is an exercise where he pulls everyone on staff and everyone kind of ranks their top 20 players, and he pulls them into one set of rankings. And cornerback Denzel Burke, number 1 on the list. Running back Travion Henderson, 2. Caleb Downs at 3 already. Jack Sawyer at 4. Emeka Ibuka at 5. Got Tyleik Williams at 6. JTT at 7. Quinshon Judkins at 8. And then 2 cornerbacks, Jordan Hancock and Davison Igbinosun at 9 and 10. Any beef with that set of rankings? Chris, is Burke who you'd have at 1?
I had Travion at 1. I had Burke at 2, but I feel like those guys are pretty interchangeable. I wouldn't argue anybody that had Burke. I think I've been a Henderson, apologist at times. I think even in the past with some of those injuries and whatnot, because it's easy just to forget when that dude's top end and like locked in. And I think Judkins is just going to enable that more because he'll be able to take some of the mileage off and reduce some of the risk. So I had Travion number 1, but again, I wouldn't argue with any of those. The rest of mine played out pretty similar. I think I had Tyleek 4th. He's sixth on our current list, I think you said. But overall, I mean, you're mixing and matching, and this will evolve obviously as the season goes along.
Yeah, absolutely. Those rankings are updated several times a year. We'll do another one right before fall camp in August or so, late July. Andre, any beef with that top 10, or who would you have in your top 5? Anything different?
I have no problem with the list. I'm just a little disappointed that JTT is number 7. I would like to see him in the top 5. Just basically, with the 5-star hype, and he basically made us wait till July before he committed. I think JTT is due to have an outstanding year. He knows that all the chips are in, so to speak, and I expect him to have a huge year this year. I like Denzel Burke. Denzel Burke is kind of a quiet guy, but that Michigan game, he brought out the intensity that I would expect from a leader like him. But I'm just disappointed that JTT is not a little higher.
You have one DE you can pick. Would you take Sawyer or JTT right now on a team you're building?
I would take JTT because I think he's a little better against the run. I think as a pass rusher, you can flip a coin. Both of those guys are kind of inconsistent, but I think JTT is a little bit better, and he's more physically stout than Sawyer, so I would take JTT.
All right, yeah. I think you can make strong cases. I probably would take Sawyer, man. I'd have to differ with you right there. And I like Sawyer too because he looks like he's his face looks like he's like 11, but his body looks like he's 26. You don't see that often, man. He looks like he's hiding a squirt gun behind the bench, man, and during the games. Like, I love it. Jeremiah Smith checked in at number 18 in those rankings, one to keep an eye on. Chris, I know you mentioned earlier you went to the 1870 open house at the Woody on Saturday. How was that experience?
Oh, it was great. Very well done, obviously, from you and the rest of the crew. I felt like, some lines, but I got to that line early enough. But yeah, I thought it was really well done, the way they had it set up to get to the players and day and all. And quite honestly, I took my 5 and 7-year-old. I was more about taking them. I don't really care about autographs and that kind of part. It's not my thing, but being able to take the kids to the WAC and sit in, Marvin Harrison's locker and get into the team room and do all that kind of stuff. It's just cool to see that stuff. Right. And the kids really got a kick out of it. So yeah, it was very, very well done, very well organized. Looked like a lot of fun. I don't know how many, you probably know what the head count was, but it looked like it was definitely over 1,000 folks there. And yeah, just to well executed fun day. Players very engaging with the kids. They were chatting it up with my kids and that kind of thing. It just seemed like those guys, they weren't just out of there out of necessity, but on a Saturday morning, I'm sure there's other things they would rather be doing. And I thought that they embraced it, and it was a really well done.
That's good to hear. Type stuff right there, brother.
Yeah, it was cool. Trying to groom them early, right?
Yeah. Did you get did you guys do the photo with Coach Day?
We did, yeah. Just the kids. Like I was, just had them up there, and they were kind of like, "Wait, who's this again?" I mean, my daughter gets it. My son's just 5. I mean, so he's still
like
trying
it later.
Though.
He'll get it one day. Yeah,
but having it was cool. Heartline was great. It was great with the kid. I mean, all those guys were. Keenan was awesome. I mean, he just come back from the combine. I'm like, hey, I just saw you on TV last night, and you're back here already. Fry was great. I mean, all those dudes. It's part of the gig. Guerrero was walking around in the line with people, he's great chatting it up, and a lot of those folks, they're obviously, you got some that are really into the team. That's why they're there. Others just have, probably have money falling out of their ass, so they're there, but they don't follow it as intently as we do. So I think he might have snuck up on some people. Ty was in there, acting crazy, and they had a lot of just general engagement. It was, like I said, very well done.
Our first event like that at 1870. We'll do more of them. Got some good feedback. The line was long. I wasn't able to make it. I was out of town. I was in Philly for a youth hockey tournament, but heard a lot of good things. And some of the more business-minded folks with me at the 1870 Society, one of them was already like, we should do fast passes, man. Sell that for like higher. So good. I mean, Ohio State's NIL is in good hands because there are people constantly thinking of ways to bring money in for the athletic program. So that's fun to see. So I'm glad it went off well. And I know that, got a lot of support from the football team and athletic department to put that event on. And I know there's some other ideas cooking Don't want to tip too many, but there's a potential 5-star recruit for a day event that we might look to put on at some point. Get to come in and get your photos taken in the room and put on the WWE belts and the gloves and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and,
that would be sweet. That would be sweet. I forgot to mention too. LJ was great. Knowles was giving out free headlocks. I got a picture of my kids, like basically
that was great.
Knowles headlocks and. Yeah, Pantone. I mean, on it, laryngitis, on and on. I mean, they had a lot of folks there, and those guys. That's work. Like they're genuinely great people, but it's still work, and you could not tell it was work. So
I mean, they're doing that to raise money to pay guys on their roster. Yeah, just showing up to get other guys paid. Man, it's fun to see. Men's basketball, we've got to keep. I mean, Andre, you were it's the first time on the show, but a couple weeks ago, Chris and I created a 600 rule for the men's basketball program. If they fall under 600, we're just not talking about them. Like if you're 525, like you're just gonna have to get some run somewhere else. And they're still not quite there. They're very close, I want to say. I didn't check for this show, but they were 571 last week. They beat Michigan 84-61 on Senior Day on Sunday. So they might be pretty close. But new coach, he's 4-1, getting it done. This is a team right now. It's 18-12, 8-11 in the Big Ten, tied for 10th right now with some games to play, or at least one game for them and some games for other teams. Conclude the regular season Sunday at Rutgers. That's a 2 p.m. game on the Big Ten Network. And, Rutgers is 7-11 in the conference, so that's kind of a seeding battle of sorts. That's kind of an important win. And you look at kind of how the seeding odds for the tournament play out. There's a 0.2% chance they get the 8th seed. And that's kind of trouble, though, because they would have to play the 9 seed next Thursday, and the winner gets Purdue the next game. And I don't think that they want that, or I wouldn't if I was the head coach. Almost 30% to get the 9th seed. That's the same scenario. 17% to get the 10th, and 27% to get the 11th. And there's a lot of scenarios that break out. If they do fall to the 11th, they would get the 14th seed on Wednesday with the number 6 team on deck. So that's a chance to maybe get 2 wins, then number 3 in the hole. So that's a little more. If you're looking at a team that needs maybe some wins for a miracle backdoor into the dance, the lower seed might make more sense. Are you guys with me on? Does that sound crazy?
I don't think it's crazy. Let me go first, Andre. I don't think it's crazy. I think that I would counter though to say that if you can get to 20 or 20, I'm not sure there's a difference between 21 wins or 20 wins, but if you get another win over Purdue, I think that would matter to me. I think you would almost invite, because you're swinging for the fences here, right? Like it's a long shot city. So to me, I would almost say, hey, beat Rutgers, and then if you can get a chance to play a first round game or not, but somehow get it to where you got a chance at Purdue. You need resume wins, right? They got Purdue and they got Bama. After that, not a ton. Nebraska, Michigan State, that kind of thing. Not bad wins by any stretch, but not like, oh, look at that. They and they're playing well down the stretch. If you could capstone that with somehow taking down a Purdue for the second time, I think that's really what you're going for with your what are they 5-11 I think versus quad 1, quad 2. So. A shot at Purdue and taking them down would obviously be gigantic. I think I saw on team rankings, I think 3.5% is their overall chance to make the NCAA tournament right now. So we're still talking about a long shot. So to me, find a way to play Purdue and see what you can do. Andre, where are you at?
Hey man, beat Purdue again, you're in. Simple as that. Anything short of that, you're looking at NIT. And I think that the NIT would be good for this team because it would give Diebler a chance to showcase his skills a couple more games. And then also, in my opinion, my greatest fear is they lose Akpara. And I've been reading a lot of things about up to 20-25 teams have contacted Bruce Thornton about leaving Ohio State. So at this point, you're trying to retain your players, and the best way to retain your players is to keep playing. Idle time is a devil's workshop, as they say. And if those guys aren't playing, they're taking phone calls and emails, and runners are approaching them about, joining their school. So, hey, and the piggyback on what you said, Jason, earlier, you said they had to get to about 600 before you talked about it. Hey, man, you're talking to somebody. If Ohio State's playing tiddlywinks on TV, I'll watch it. So, hey. Give the Buckeyes basketball program some love, brother.
We might watch them. We're not going to talk about them. There's a difference, man. They've got to earn it, man. I stand by that. Good points, strong points from both you, Chris. Like the another win against Purdue is a great way to punch your ticket. And Andre, yeah, man, that transfer portal window is open. I guess it's been open for about 2.5 weeks now. It's got another week and a half or so, maybe 12 days left. So you're right, man. Keep playing, keep the guys on the roster so they don't peace out, at least this early. But, we were joking, Chris, in recent shows about Jake Diebler getting the job or what can he do to win the job. And it was always kind of a joke. And you're on record as saying you want someone with more experience and maybe a bigger name and a guy that's running a program. And we don't want someone maybe learning on the fly as much. I mean, he's 4-1 with some decent wins as interim head coach. He's got the same number of Big Ten wins right now as Chris Holtmann. And you guys are going to love this. One more than Juwan Howard. So props to Jake Diebler for that. But, there's some Dusty May chatter out there all of a sudden. And he's a hell of a coach. And, wasn't a manager at Indiana. So you're always like, oh, if he gets an opportunity to go to Indiana, he's going to do that. But, just yesterday, Indiana announced they were going to give Mike Woodson another year. So, good news for Buckeye fans, bad news probably for Indiana. I'd be livid if they were given, if I was a Hoosier fan and Mike Woodson got another year and you had a chance to maybe get Dusty May. I know there was some Sean Miller chat last week and this week seems to be like more Dusty May. I know Jeff Goodman had something saying Dusty May might be a leader. Want to know, Andre, who do you want for the job? Can Jake be your guy or do you want someone off program? Who are you thinking?
Well, first of all, I want an experienced guy due to the fact that more than ever in college athletics, you have to recruit your own guys more than anything. And Jake's, constantly saying, I know Jake doesn't have the experience, but he's constantly saying how he reaches out to Bryce Drew and gives his opinion on things. That tells me that he's not ready for a job like that. You need a guy with experience. My personal choice would be the coach at Kansas State, and that's Jerome Tang. He's got the enthusiasm. He's got the East Coast ties to New York. He'll bring some East Coast guys. Obviously, Ohio State will recruit itself in the Midwest, but I'm more of a Jerome Tang fan just for the simple fact of the energy that he brings. I watch every game Ohio State women plays, and the energy when Ohio State women are playing in Value City Arena is 5 times better than the men. And that just reminds me every time that they're playing there, like just basketball program, they don't have any fans that really come in juiced up, ready to cheer for the team. That's got to change. Jerome Tang would definitely fill that room with energy. He's an energetic guy. Dusty May, he's a good coach and everything, solid coach, but he just doesn't bring that juice. Ohio State basketball, the fact that they have to go up against that behemoth Ohio State football team, they need a guy with juice. And I don't know if Dusty May is going to fill that void, to be honest.
Chris, what about you? I know you're a Miller guy.
Yeah, no, I'm still. I like Sean Miller for sure. I think Dusty May would be a fine hire. I think out of the people we know that are potentially candidates right now, Tang's an interesting name. I don't know how interested he is or what that looks like, but I know he's been brought up before, and I think he would. I would be happy with him as well. For a lot of the reasons that you stated. But yeah, for me still, I think right now, definitely, I'm not trying to hear Deebs, no offense, unless he goes full Steve Fisher, like we said last week. Like, you needed a proof. This is a top 20 job. Holtmann made it seem like it wasn't, but it is. So you need to have been a head coach before for more than a half a season. In my opinion, I think especially Bjork being a new athletic director, that plays into this as well. Find someone it's going to be his first hire. So that's a bit of a gamble, I think, and an unnecessary one at that. I don't think all these guys are necessarily going to bolt. You bring in a big name. These guys, meaning like Bruce and those guys, certainly they're going to get, talked to by other teams, but I don't think it's a given these guys are going to, just all leave, because I think, especially the way they're playing down the stretch, I think they can see like they're not that far away, like they're not as bad as their record. They're closer to what they've been doing lately. They still have some work to do, but they know they've got some pieces. So I'm not convinced that all those guys are just going to take off. Miller, to me, with the connections he already has in Ohio, what he's done historically, his resume is legit. He's still, my top choice. I would be fine with May. If a Tang did emerge as a legit candidate, I think I'd be fine with that as well. But I like I said last week, Jason, I think there's still names that we haven't even brought up yet that could end up in the mix. It is March 6th, but that might as well be January 6th, considering like the tournament still has to play out. You're not like the tournament team gets hot. Oh, there's a new coach. He's the hot guy. Like that whole roller coaster hasn't even started yet. So I feel like this is just getting warmed up. They're doing their necessary due diligence, but I think there will be other names that will come up.
That's a good point. You got to find the guy that's going to beat Purdue in the second round too. I mean, that guy will be a hot name after a couple weekends.
Yeah, Jason. One more thing before we move along from Chris Holtman. I love Chris Holtman as a man, as a person. He does things the right way. When he does all the interviews, he calls all the person, young lady, or the men interviewing him by their name. He's an excellent person, individual walking this earth, the kind of guy that you would love to have your neighbor or be your kid's teacher or whatever. But the fact that the last 2 years in January, they just went in the tank, that tells me that they were basically out-coached, because it's not a coincidence that when January comes, when Big Ten starts, that they start losing. That means that they're basically getting outworked. And that's just unacceptable as an Ohio State a coach with all the resources and things that you have. And I wish him well, but I don't necessarily have anything bad to say about Chris Holtman, the person. Just Chris Holtman, the coach, just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, strong point. He by the time Big Ten rolls around, teams know what you are. They know how to play you. They know how to scout you. They know how to prepare for you. And it's on you as the coach of your team to make sure you're one step ahead of what they're trying to do to counter what they know about you. So really strong point. Let's talk about the women's team, though. You touched on the energy they bring. Tough loss to Iowa Sunday at Iowa, 93-83. Can we talk about Caitlin Clark for a minute? And I've got a take to get off about her. And I think that she is one of the best, if not the best, women's college basketball players ever. She's so fun to watch, splash from anywhere, can get points like it's nobody's business. I mean, what she's done, just passing Pete Maravich to become the all-time leading college scorer. But, here comes the but. Like that, did you see the technical that Cody McMahon got with Clark kind of leaning into her? And I know that fan ran on the court when the Hawkeyes lost at the shot a while back. The fan was dumb, was streaming, running across that was on the fan, but she kind of flopped there too. So I'm kind of where I imagine Pistons fans were in the 90s, where they did not like Michael Jordan, but they respected Michael Jordan. And I think that's where I am with Caitlin Clark. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that stuff. But, man, she's a great player. I'm not saying she's not a great player. And so I think the Pistons analogy, as I was thinking about, that's how Pistons fans probably were back in the day. I feel like that myself.
I'll piggyback off of that, man. She's got a lot of Christian Laettner to her. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, that's a great comparison.
It's just one of those kind of situations where you respect the talent, you respect the ability, but it's a little underlying little thing that you kind of don't like. That when she gave JC a little pop to the chest, and there was no foul called, and then basically, it was just like a cool breeze when Cody McMahon went past her and just got a technical. But we both know there was no way Ohio State was going to win that game. Based on everything that was the national television breaking another record, Gus Johnson's in the house. The game had 3.4 million viewers. That was a game that I knew that I was going to come out on top. Ohio State already won the Big Ten championship, and it made it all about Caitlin. So, but that's all right. We got a second chance this coming weekend in Minneapolis to get the revenge on that. But I'm with you, Jason. There's definitely an underlying thing about her. I don't necessarily have anything against her personally, but it's kind of like the Brett Favre thing. When he was at Green Bay, he's going to retire, he's going to come back. The media will make you not like a person with the coverage that they get, for sure.
Chris, where are you at on Caitlin Clark?
Yeah, she's awesome. She's revolutionized the game. She's created so much more viewership. Everything she's doing is great for, just basketball in general, not just women's college basketball. Elite, fun to watch. We're talking about women's college basketball. When did we talk about that on the radio? Unless it was specifically, Jason, talking about Ohio State. We weren't talking about anything else. You would have been cracking on, Mulkey's outfits or something like that, but we weren't really talking about games, right? So to me, I think it's all great. And she does play with an edge, and I can see where she can be a bit unlikable. For me, though, all that is just a bonus for it just creates that much more relevancy, that much more discussion or whatever for the women's game, which I think is awesome, because I'm definitely pro the women's game. It's increasingly fun to watch. Just beyond Caitlin Clark, I just feel like the level of play over the years has just gotten better and better. And obviously she's central to that the last handful of years. So yeah, Prickly, can see why she's not liked. She gets a lot of calls, like that technical. If that would have been anybody else on Iowa's team, that wasn't going to be a technical, but it was Caitlin Clark, so it got enough attention, and it was teed up. So that's no different than NBA stars and that kind of thing getting calls. So it's just part of the drill. But yeah, I'm with you, Andre. I think the spread was like OSU +5 or something like that. I'm like, oh man, hammer Iowa. This is not a shot at Ohio State. It's just this game, everything lines up for Iowa, probably win this thing big. And yeah, to me, in the grand scheme, it means nothing. I hope we see a rematch between these guys, and not so much in the Big Ten. I mean, that would be fine, but in the NCAA tournament, that would be electric if that, something like that could end up in Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland with the Final Four this year. How fun would that be? And they could, meet one or two more times. You got the Big Ten tournament coming up. Andre, you touched on the viewing number. I think 3.39 mil. Most watched college basketball regular season game for women since 1999, which is insane.
Wow.
And fun little bit of trivia, man. Per Fox, women's basketball is doing better numbers than men's basketball on Fox this season.
Not a surprise.
That's insane to me. And I'm here to say, it may be a better product right now. It may be a better product.
How many of those have been? Do we know how many of those were Iowa? I feel like it's a little bit of cherry picking because women's game's not on as often.
Well, yeah, okay, but maybe. But even that you can say that with a straight face.
I don't say as a hater. I'm just saying, if it's Iowa and Caitlin Clark every time, then yeah, Creighton and Butler's not going to draw the same numbers.
No, you're right.
It's a little bit of a quiet storm. Perfect storm, I should say. My apologies. Because you're playing Ohio State, one of the biggest alumni bases in the country. Caitlin Clark's about to break the record. On top of that, football season is over. Guys are used to watching sports on Sunday afternoon. The game came on at 1 o'clock Sunday. That was perfect programming by Fox. Everything came into place for them. I mean, that's just a perfect storm right there.
Yeah, for sure. Bucks 25-4, 16-2 in Big Ten play with that loss. They clinched the program's league-leading 16th regular season championship. First outright title since 09-10. That's a long time ago all of a sudden. Kevin McGuff voted Coach of the Year in the Big Ten by media and coaches. It's the first time he's won the award. Cody McMahon and J.C. Sheldon named first team All Big Ten. Celeste Taylor Theory named second team All Big Ten. And Celeste Taylor named Big Defensive Player of the Year, leading the conference in steals. This is a team that makes other teams turn the ball over a ton. They're fun to watch. They're the number one seed in the tournament. Maryland, Illinois play today, and Ohio State will play the winner of that tomorrow. That's a 12:30 game on BTN for the big quarterfinals. But fun to watch, and here's McGuff and the ladies making a deep run and winning the Big Ten, and then, would kill, man. That game in Cleveland, I might have to go. I'm not going to lie, man. I've never thought, this is something I wouldn't consider saying a lot, but I would drive to Cleveland to watch that game if they could meet in the Final Four of the national championship.
What will that take it be?
Man, I don't know.
Jason, BMW, you know what that stands for?
What's that?
Bring money with you.
I'm going to need it, man. You're going to need it for something like that. Having a blast tonight, Andre. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's get to some college sports quickies here. Corey Dennis on the move again. My guy took a little bit of a hit against Urban Meyer's son-in-law, married his daughter, Nikki. Took a little bit of a hit when he left OSU as the quarterback coach, but left after the conclusion of the season. But he's quickly mastered the job upgrade. It's kind of impressive to watch what's happened. Named an offensive analyst on February 6th. And then, where was he named an offensive analyst on the 6th? Utah. Yep. Drawing a blank. Yep. And then on February 23rd, 17 days later, he's like, I'm going to go take this same job, but at Ole Miss. And then 2 weeks after that, news comes out that he's going to be the quarterback coach and passing game coordinator at Tulsa. Our good friend Kevin Wilson's the head coach at Tulsa. So he knows Corey. He's a guy you can trust. But basically in the span of 1 month, he's had, I guess you could go back in 1 month and a couple of days, he's had 4 different jobs. If you look at it, right? That's impressive. And he landed, the first couple were offensive analysts. He's got a real staff job now. So he ended up fine, man. I admire it.
Let me tell you something. One, we know his father-in-law has a lot of influence. And two, did he ever even step foot in any one of those positions before he got the Tulsa job? Did he ever even step foot in Utah?
They might have got the package with like a quarter zip and a hat. I bet he's got some swag. He's got some stuff in the closet he can't wear now. I bet there's some gifts being gifted here soon.
Good for him, though. I think that's the best out of all those things, best landing spot. Now I know it's a full-time gig, right? So obviously it's the best spot, but I think as someone who, is still young in the profession and trying to grow and develop in the profession, hey, I think learning from Kevin Wilson, knowing that he's, Dennis is going to probably continue to be on the offensive side of the ball, I think that's probably as good a landing spot as anything for just, his overall future, not just the now, but for, down the road.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but Tulsa is the smallest Division I program in the country. The smallest. So you're going from Ohio State with unlimited resources, 100,000 people every night, to Tulsa. I wish him the best of luck because, Kevin Wilson has commented a couple times about, making the adjustment from a place like Ohio State to Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big change.
Probably not quite the same type of facilities I'm imagining out there and resources and everything. It reminds me of like Tom Herman went to Houston. He famously was in the hallway tearing up carpet to put new carpet down. Like the head coach is like, man, I gotta do some work here quickly. But best of luck to Corey. Some rule changes coming early signing day. It looks like it's going to move to the first week in December, which is still tough if you have conference championship games. The guys have to worry about that, but they're not. Now, at least they won't have to worry about, especially with the playoff, trying to sign a class in the middle of playoff prep. So small win for them there. And there's, of course, some thought that conference championships may go away at some point, too, once the playoff field gets big enough where you can pick 2, 3, 4 teams from a conference, and then you don't have to settle the best one. So probably a good one there. And this is one that I'm sure Ohio State fans will love. Helmet radios. Don't think it's locked in yet, but all the momentum in the world is there for them to see the field next season. Still grumpy that John Harbaugh, during the Ravens playoff push was, someone asking about scouting another team. And he's like, yeah, we're allowed to do that in the NFL. And it's like, yeah, you guys have radio headsets in the NFL too. Like it's a bigger deal. They're like, come on, man. Big wins for people that like to do things by the rules. Surely, a wrench into what Michigan's planning in the future, but here for that. Had so much fun, man. You guys were great. Andre, you were fantastic first time on the show, and we'll definitely do this again.